Hello, and welcome to this year's Cityworks Canadian Forum. My name is Rob Santos, Director of Public Works and Community Development for Esri Canada. With me today is Chris Roth. Chris, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name's Christopher Roth, and as the industry manager here at Esri Canada, I just want to give everyone a warm welcome. Thank you for being here. I will always look forward to this event myself in years past. I've been with Esri Canada now for 2 years and been in the role of industry manager since March of this year and have been to this event many times as a client in the past. So again, welcome, thank you, and hope you look forward to all the sessions we have for you today. Thanks, Rob.
Great. Chris will be your moderator today, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join this virtual user summit. This forum is an annual event, and its purpose is to allow our customers to share their use of Cityworks and also give an opportunity for Cityworks to provide a software roadmap update. The theme this year is building safer, sustainable, and connected communities. All of you continue to strive to build safe and sustainable communities, but really is by no means an easy undertaking, especially with evolving federal and provincial legislation on asset management and community development that are essentially driving municipalities to enhance or adopt new systems and processes to meet regulatory requirements. As such, I would like to welcome the latest members to the Cityworks community who are identified on this slide. Since last year, 19 customers from coast to coast are either new users or have expanded their use of Cityworks to either AMS or PLL. As our customer base increases, our staff complement also increases as well. We now have 27 team members dedicated to supporting implementations across the country. Now, an interesting trend is the increasing number of customers who have invested in both AMS and PLL, as you can see by this slide. This also indicates that the expanding needs of asset management and also efficient development plan reviews and permitting is ever present to help address the national housing shortage and to support the development of asset management plans corporately. Through the Cityworks workflow diagram, PLL and AMS are complementary when viewed through an asset lifecycle lens. From the day-to-day capture of asset information through reactive, preventive, and condition-based maintenance, which feeds into the planning and engineering process for development planning, to submission of development applications by applicants and developers, the plan review process, approval, acceptance, and then the subsequent construction of new housing and infrastructure. Our newest members join over 70 communities across Canada and over 700 plus worldwide. Now, this is an interesting statistics. From the latest census, 1 in 4 Canadians are served by the Cityworks software, which I think is fairly significant. Here's just a sampling of our customers in various sizes. You may see your municipal logo on this slide. Our users are benefiting from the GIS-centric nature of the software, leveraging ArcGIS as the single and authoritative source of asset and land inventory, which means there's no data mappings, redundancy, and back-end data synchronization. Asset and land data models are fully configurable and also non-proprietary as well. So as a result, you have a solution in place that is highly integrated through the use of Cityworks and ArcGIS APIs. Many of you are using the APIs to integrate to corporate and third-party systems, for example, financial and payroll systems. And some of you have capitalized on the ArcGIS APIs to further streamline data collection processes, spatial analytics, and BI dashboarding to meet those business requirements and also reporting from a regulatory reporting requirement. And you'll see good examples of these integrations in action in today's presentations. So let's move on to today's agenda. We'll begin the presentation with Becky Tamashasky, Sector VP Product Vision for Trimble, followed by a new feature spotlight presentation using 3D data in Cityworks by Jessica and Kevin, our technical solution specialists here at Esri Canada. We'll then take a 15-minute break and then proceed with customer presentations from the City of Prince George, City of Kelowna, Aquaterra Utilities, and the City of Sarnia. I think you'll find the presentation content very informative as the solutions developed are quite innovative. To provide a smooth and flow between presentations, we ask you to enter your questions in the live Q&A panel, and answers will be provided by our team. Any outstanding questions can be answered in the wrap-up or emailed to all attendees after the forum. So let's move on to our first presenter, which is, again, Becky Tamashasky, who will provide a presentation on the Cityworks roadmap. She is the Sector President of Product Vision for the Owner and Public Sector Division of Trimble. Becky brings more than 20 years of experience to the role, where she leads the direction of GIS-centric solutions for DOTs, local government, public works, utility organizations as well. And she oversees the customer success teams at Cityworks. Becky also serves on the ESRI Partner Advisory Council and the CTO Council. So Becky, welcome to the forum, and over to you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining in today. Now that I'm introduced, I'm going to go ahead and go off video so we can maximize that screen space that we have. I want to go ahead and share with you today what has been taking place with Cityworks and where we are looking forward in terms of our long-term vision. Before I do that, I do want to also make sure to say that, as Rob mentioned, we do have the Cityworks conference that's coming up the first week of December 7th through 9th in Salt Lake City. I would love to see any of you there in person and have a chance to meet and talk one-on-one and just hear more in depth of what's taking place in all of your communities. So with that, I will go ahead and get started here. As preemptive, I do have to go ahead and just throw this up and just say any of the information that's shared here today is subject to change and should not be the basis for any contractual agreements. And so with that, what I'm planning on covering is going through, and for some of the sites that are newer or maybe aren't even Cityworks customers who are on the call today, just a little bit of an introduction as to where we are today in terms of the organization, looking at the Cityworks platform and understanding the full portfolio of capabilities that we're offering today, where we're headed in terms of One Trimble and what that means with alignment with other Trimble applications, and in the Cityworks roadmap, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of time left for some Q&A if possible. So for those of you who might not be aware, Cityworks was acquired by Trimble a couple years ago in 2019. And so with that, Trimble has brought Cityworks into the organization, and we're currently located within the construction sector. Within there, we are working with a number of other applications that are focused around the construction of infrastructure, as well as the delivery of that infrastructure and maintaining it for those owners of the infrastructure once it's up and running. Being part of this organization, we have the access to work with a number of other Trimble applications that cover technology across GPS, hardware, sensor data, and a number of other software applications that are located within this organization that can help us really go through and expand and augment the implementations that our customers are doing in relation to operations and maintenance for their current infrastructure and future needs as well. For the Cityworks customers that we work with, there are a number of industries and verticals in which Cityworks resides. What we consider our true north is in relation to local government, and that gets into supporting those in public works, utilities, and the number of other assets and teams and groups and departments that resolve within local government. For many of our customers, that gets into activities such as community development, building development, licensing for businesses, code enforcement, the activities that take place around the permitting process for the expansion and development of those new communities that come into an organization. For a number of our other customers as well, airports and transportation are housed within the local government organizations. And with the flexibility of Cityworks and the architecture that allows us to work with anything that's really being tracked or configured in the GIS, we have the opportunity to take all the event activity and the capabilities of Cityworks and apply it against any of that infrastructure. And so this kind of gives some context for where we are residing today within the customers that we work with and where we really have our true focus and our commitment to those customers. And as we're looking at infrastructure across those verticals, Cityworks supports the entire asset lifecycle. So we've been helping municipal organizations and utilities like yourselves for years now by delivering connected public asset management platforms. And basically with that, with Cityworks, all the capabilities that we build into the applications that you're working with start at the platform level. So those are web services that are being architected to really make sustainable applications that will grow with an organization and really help to provide that enterprise capability that you need into the long term. And so with that, we serve, creating solutions that work across every phase of the utilities and local government lifecycle, whether it's in regards to the planning and design process, working on the permitting side, the submittal of those design plans, review process, fees, scheduling of those inspections, through to the engineering and construction with the tool sets that we can bring in now across the broader Trimble to get into the engineering and construction side of things, working with as-built data, 3D models, and also taking that information that's being captured across applications that are offered by Esri, such as ArcGIS Urban, ArcGIS Indoors. Those are applications that I'll actually be diving into a little bit later in the presentation in terms of how Cityworks is working with those. And then the core of where Cityworks has always resided in relation to the operations and maintenance and the analysis and optimization of that infrastructure. So as some of you already are aware, Cityworks kind of has two flavors, and one, it can also be brought together for a unified consolidated enterprise application. So in terms of asset management, out of the box, there's opportunities to have the capabilities provided for public request. This can be coming in through a number of channels. It could be coming in through IoT data. It could be coming in from citizen engagement apps that are being used by the public, or as simple as a phone call into the local offices to go ahead and report any number of issues. From there, the capabilities are possible to create a workflow that results in a follow-up inspection that's taking place out in the field, identifying the asset that might be related to the issue, determining what work needs to be done, and then scheduling that work and dispatching crews, where we move into the work management stage. And that's where we start to really record the meat of the resources that are involved, getting into the equipment, labor, material costing, that resource utilization, the information that's tracked in terms of association with projects, contracts, budgets, what crews were on site, what were the dates and times that work was initiated versus when it was completed, who was contacted, what tasks and workflows together built out that entire work activity. And then taking all the data from all those stages that you see here and consolidating it across the reporting and analytics side. Similar to that, on the permitting side, we have the ability to go through and initiate with that permitting application through the Cityworks portal, where organizations have the ability to stand up a front-facing portal that can be used by residents and contractors to initiate the application process. Also being used for business licensing renewals, code enforcement reporting. Organizations have the flexibility to identify and put forward which workflows they choose to serve up to the public and which elements of those workflows as well are available. From there, they can go through and work with a number of business partners actually who have more complementary applications that will get into more detailed plan review process, getting into the permit issuance, the fee payments, scheduling of inspections, and then again, taking all that information across that life cycle of the permitting process and bringing it in for the analytics and reporting, resulting in the final issuance of a permit for operation and residents, and that can actually be provided through Cityworks as well. For a number of our customers, as they kick off their implementations, they might start with one or the other, it seems, with the eventuality of growing into a full system that allows us to actually take it across all these stages. So when we talk about enterprise asset management at Cityworks, we really see it as permitting and asset management coming together. The initiation and the concept of that asset from the design side before it's ever actually constructed or operational out in the field is when that asset management process starts. And then it continues on throughout that life cycle to when it's operational in the field on the asset management side, onto its eventual retirement, perhaps as infrastructure. And to help organizations manage their infrastructure across all of those stages, we've been in the process of kind of moving away and updating our framework. For those of you who have been longtime customers of Cityworks, you're familiar with Cityworks Office, and there's AMS and PLL, and that's all residing at the platform level of Cityworks. Over the years, we've seen a need to go ahead and start taking some of those capabilities and breaking them out into more focused apps for our customers, allowing them to have an interface and the fields and the data that are really more keyed into their individual and specific workflows. And so Cityworks Storeroom was where that first occurred. And that's really getting into that inventory management side of things, being able to have the abilities for issuances, receivables, audits of inventory, and dashboards that are configured and specific to those inventory managers. From there, we moved on and we started creating more of these apps, breaking out those capabilities that were within Cityworks Office and going ahead and populating many of these. And then also as we've created new features and new capabilities within Cityworks, that's where we've created new apps, and you're finding capabilities and features there that aren't seen in Cityworks Office, such as operational insights and the ability to get into the business risk calculation, configuring information related to probability of failure and consequence of failure based off the attribution that's being tracked and reported back in the GIS. So real-time actual data that's coming in, and it's tied to that infrastructure and being updated across the organization to give a real-time view of the risk of those assets. And then as you can see from there, there's a number of other features, OpEx, which is something that we've been working on for a while. We recently had the full release of OpEx, which includes the capabilities for performance budgeting, contract management, and project management within one application. The ability to have dashboards that are viewing and bringing together consolidated data across all of those features as well. So with that, I'm actually going to move over to our roadmap. And so I mentioned, we've been in this process for a while now of taking Cityworks Office and creating some of these spun-off apps that are more focused on individual workflows. It also has the benefit of providing our users with more performant apps as well. When we're moving away from, this larger framework and into the more specific apps, and also in an HTML5 interface, it allows the software to perform faster. It also allows us to bring new features and new enhancements and improvements to the software, as well as bug fixes in a more agile manner. And so with that, we know that there have been gaps that have been present in Cityworks Respond versus Cityworks Office. I will go through and say that has been our number one priority for the last year now, and it will probably be the number one priority for the next year, is going through and closing those gaps to close the parity gaps that exist between Cityworks Respond and Cityworks Office, as well as those that exist between Cityworks Admin and Cityworks Designer and PLL Admin. And the focus there with admin is really coming in and bringing all of the configuration activities into a single environment. So being able to configure both your PLL deployment and your AMS deployment, those users, feature services, reporting tools, email notifications, all of that within one system to really ease the burden for the administrative side as well. So this is kind of showing here where we stand today on the far right with the releases. Those are the current releases across the applications. And then the current releases in terms of the functionality that's currently available. So you can see there at the top, I did mention, OpEx is now complete with functionality, including everything for contracts, performance budgeting, and the project management as well. You can see some of the other activities that have been taking place as we kind of go down the line. This is just a subset of everything that's included in the current release. I can't really cram everything in here as well. But then as I move towards the coming soon side, you can see more of those gaps with Respond that are being closed out. There's a number of AMS gaps. There were too many to start to include everything individually there. Those standard inspections that have existed in Office in relation to CCTV, manhole, pavement inspections, and the equipment changeout process. With public access, we're now able to provide what we consider guided access. It allows organizations to provide notes and guidance to their users throughout the intake process to make sure that there's notes available, directions to ease any miscommunication in terms of what's required at different stages, to make sure that they can complete their submittals. They don't have to step away and come back. There's not errors that are created because of a lack of information that's being included. So really helping to make public access a more easy to use experience for those front-facing customers. And then as we move towards the left, you'll see there's more activities that are starting to come into place. So we are working towards SOC 2 certification for those of you who are using hosted applications. That's something that's currently underway in terms of the certification process. And then with Respond, still more features and functionality coming. And also you'll see that Elm. I know for quite a while now, it's been one of those issues where if you're in Respond and you need to add features through Elm, add resources through Elm, you're directed back to Office to do so. That's something that we are close to closing out, and it should actually be moving that up into the coming soon stage. It's nearing the end of that development process. And there's a number of these other items that you see here that I'm going to start to get into in more detail as we go through the presentation and dive into the individual apps. One of the ones I did want to point out, though, is Athena on the in development stage. So as we've been going through, and we'll be sharing more about this at the Cityworks conference in a few weeks, but one of the other reasons for moving into more of the apps from Office is a legacy application, and it's something that, in terms of the technology framework that's in place, it's becoming harder and harder to continue to update in terms of bringing new features or new functionality to Office. And so as we're moving forward, Office is not going away. It's not being deprecated, but we do need to go through and really standardize on the new features coming into the apps rather than into Office. And it also means that as we move forward with changes that are taking place across technology and with the .NET framework, we're actually moving closer and closer to being able to actually realize the Athena vision that we laid out a few years ago at the Cityworks conference. And with that, it really enables our organizations to start deploying and installing apps individually to specific users. So being able to install Cityworks admin or any of the apps without installing Cityworks Office. And that's really where we're stepping towards. So you can see here with Cityworks Respond, we have gone through and there's been quite a few updates. I really recommend that if you haven't taken a look at Respond, you go through, you download it, you put it in a testing environment, and you start to put it through the steps and start to identify if it's at the stage yet where it can start to work for the organizations. Along with that, I also heavily recommend downloading Cityworks Style, which is the application that we use now for the modification of the forms, the look and layout, hiding fields, hiding panels. You can even change color themes across the applications. And there's a lot of flexibility that you can do there without having to dive into code or XML files to manage how the application looks and feels across your user base. With Cityworks Storeroom, it's matured significantly. Brad Johnson is a product manager for Cityworks Storeroom, and he just does a phenomenal job here. He comes from an inventory management background, so it's something that he's really experienced with, but also very passionate about. And so there's been a number of enhancements that we've been bringing forward and working on in relation to Storeroom. One of them that's close to coming soon, I will say, is the ability to actually, as inventory is transitioning into infrastructure in the field, being able to take that inventory and now convert it to a GIS feature. So we can go actually track it across its life cycle to understand for the meter that we see in the field, being able to backtrack and understand which work order it came from, which storeroom it came from, where it existed as inventory before it was operational in the field, the manufacturer, all that going back, almost like a simplified version of blockchain that we'll be able to provide to those end users to start to understand and track the performance of their infrastructure and failure issues that they start to identify. And then, as I mentioned, Cityworks OpEx is now at the point that it has the complete capabilities across project management, performance budgeting, and contract management. And this is one of those examples where if you start to dive into it and you even look at the project management side of things, there's a number of new features there that are beyond what we were able to start providing in Project Manager back in Office. And so being able to have items such as a geographic boundary of a project area, being able to create that as a feature set, and then being able to identify visually all the work orders, activities, inspections that are associated back with that project and view visually if they're correctly associated and within the project boundary. Also now incorporating permitting into the project management. So not just having the costs that are going out on the work management side, but also the revenue coming in from permitting and seeing that in a consolidated view for a complete financial ledger. And then the Cityworks native apps that are continuing to expand and grow in terms of features. There's a number of new enhancements that are coming down the line in relation to the native apps. Things that are related to filtering of the fields for the viewing display. So automatically eliminating from that user's view fields that are not populated or not configured on the forms, simplifying in terms of what the user experiences once they come into the inbox and identifying their saved searches and queries that are being created from the response side of the application. And then Cityworks Public Access. There is so much that's taking place right now with public access in relation to expanded payment providers that are being worked with, going through and looking at the contractor management side of things, being able to manage contractors through the public access portal, and then having that feed throughout the platform for the adding new contractors into the organization, the licensing of contractors, their registrations, the work that they're associated with. That whole management aspect is really being fleshed out in much more detail in relation to public access. But those capabilities and features are being fed throughout the platform, so they're available also for other aspects within the permitting workflows. With relation to operational insights, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but we've actually gone through now and incorporated the ability to bring in the object data tied to features and have that participate in the calculations for probability of failure and consequence of failure calculations. And what that means for a number of our user organizations is that it starts to incorporate things like sensor data. So being able to bring that sensor data in terms of, let's say, distribution main performance, and identify how that data can be used to start to identify the probability of failure for that infrastructure and have that feed into the eventual business risk calculations as well. So that was something that we've been working on for a while. It's now available in the product, and it starts to really expand and augment how those calculations are taking place in terms of that risk assessment to have that additional participation from sensor data applications. Okay, so Cityworks Elm is being fleshed out in relation to Respond, and it took a different approach. We heard all of our customers' feedback in relation to the previous Elm design, frustrations with it, limitations. We've done a number of usability studies and customer participation to get feedback on the design. It will also include estimated costs, contractor costs. There's a number of new features that are coming here as well. And then with Cityworks Workload, the ability to actually go through and do some of that scheduling activity to go through and look at from a calendar view as well as a spatial view, and start to assign inspectors on scheduled activities, drag and drop functionality for rescheduling, and having it be a much more flexible and dynamic interface that is more in tune with how the scheduling workflows actually are carried out within the organizations. And then expanded capabilities here for the 2D and 3D infrastructure, looking at the ability to start to dynamically move between 2D and 3D views. There's a number of other features that are coming in here in terms of the ability to also bring in data and views from some of our business partners who, such as Cyclomedia and EagleView, and being able to bring that data in and actually use it to augment the views of those users so they can actually do more in-depth and more accurate analysis from the back office to be able to visualize what the infrastructure looks like in place out in the field. And I'm going to move through some of these pretty quickly here. But there are a number of new 3D tools that are also available. And I think these are actually, it's kind of interesting because as you go through it, some folks are have given feedback, that some of this is just like eye candy. But if you think about it from the permitting perspective, being able to look at daylight views and how some of the structures and the height starts to augment daylight views, landscape views of existing housing developments and what that means in terms of ordinance views. And then not sure if it's on this video or if it was the next one. Oh, but here we go. The heat map feature is back in Cityworks as well. And it's also available in both 2D and 3D. That was one of the things that we heard from a number of customers that they wanted to have brought back into the application. So we're still continuing the work that we're doing with ArcGIS Indoors. At the user conference, we actually have a presentation that'll be taking place from the Atlanta airport on stage that's highlighting and showcasing their implementation of ArcGIS Indoors for their airport, but also the incorporation of Cityworks activities within the indoors environment as well. And the work that we're doing with ArcGIS Urban team to go through and use that as part of the permitting process, having that be an entry point for creation of a new development project, and how the tool sets and capabilities from ArcGIS Urban are being able to be used and incorporated as part of that plan review process. And then we're happy to say that we also now have full support for the utility network. We've met with several of the solution engineers from Esri, and the feedback has been that Cityworks is the only asset management application that's actually able to natively read the utility network feature services and incorporate that data without having to do any data migration or manipulation. And so that's something that's really great to hear. We have full support of the subtype data, and this is all available through the map and throughout the work order and inspection service request activities as well. And we've actually been working with a number of the other Esri teams in relation to things such as Workflow Manager, how to go through and use the Cityworks APIs and webhooks to incorporate workflows from Workflow Manager and have those propagated throughout the application. And we'll have some examples of this as well at the conference in terms of working with the ArcGIS Solutions team, being able to take some of those activities that they've actually created for the solution side in relation to items like right-of-way permitting and special events permitting, and how those can be used to initiate the processes for the public and then carried through on the backside to Cityworks PLL. For those of you who might not be aware, as part of this new location that we are in within Trimble, we are working with groups such as eBuilder for digital project delivery and capital improvement planning. And with that, we're able to go through and actually use Cityworks OpEx as a basis through those web services to initiate and tie together the project tracking that's happening throughout the organization, from the capital and engineering side over to the operations and maintenance side, associating together those activities, the resources, the costs, and then also using the native capabilities within Cityworks to bring back an Esri map-based view for those eBuilder users. And this is just some examples of the workflows that some of our customers have been incorporating as part of that. This is also something that will be covered in more in depth at the conference. And then we've also been working with, I'm not sure if everybody's aware of those application called Pavement Express from Agile Assets, and they're also within the same division as Cityworks and eBuilder. And so this is another area that we've been working to bring together a connected workflow to be able to take the information that's coming from Pavement Express as part of the pavement management program, and then using what the recommendations are from there, from the work project planning, to actually execute and create new surveys, inspections, and work order activities within Cityworks as those are being carried out in the field, as applications are being applied to pavement segments and conditions are changing and new inspections are being generated. That information is being fed back to Pavement Express, and it becomes a cyclical loop for the program pavement management.